So Thunderclap is now fully dubbed in English. It's complete, and we have our full recounting of the fight between Sukuna and Mahroga, one of the most important fights in the series, because it not only is epically awesome, it sets up so much for later Jujutsu Kaisen. So I was super psyched to go into this, and it sucked. It sucked hard on a multitude of levels. And I'm sure for anime onlys, you're probably confused because you probably thought that fight looked awesome. But it wasn't. It sucked for a multitude of reasons, and let's get into it. The first thing you have to understand is that, unlike in the instance of an anime only, I take a look at this both as the perspective of an anime viewer and as somebody who has read the manga. I am watching this be adapted for the first time. So for me, a lot of fights that are improved are going to look even better, and some fights that are being tampered with aren't coming off very well. And in that regards, this did a horrible job of translating one of the most important moments from the manga to the anime, because this fight is both supposed to be epically awesome, but it's also supposed to be significant for the plot. This literally sets up some of the most key factors in Jujutsu Kaisen, and this episode botched it horribly. So let's break down why. Well, first off, I think the thing we have to get out of the way right away, because it is such a hot topic right now, is the animation. Let's put it this way. There was good animation in this. There was also some very rough animation in this. Some of the animation in this almost gave me vibes of certain sections of like Black Clover. There's a particular section in the Witch's Forest that's very not appealing fluid animation, and I have no doubt that a big contributor of this was how much pressure the animators were under. I don't blame them for that. They were probably given this timetable for this and turned out the best work they possibly could. So I'm not going to refer to that much. But let's say that given some of the other fights in the series, I know this fight could have had much better visuals. But they were under immense pressure, and they need all the credit in the world and all the support that we as an audience can give them. So, if that wasn't the major issue, though, what was? The general tampering with this story. I don't think I can explain this to you of how fast fights are really supposed to be in Jujutsu Kaisen, because in particular this season, they have expanded quite a few of the battles to the point they're now significantly longer than they ever used to be. In some ways, that's good. And in some ways, that's bad. Because some of the expansions, like in the case for Hidden Inventory, really improved the story. They showcased characters, they showcased locations, but we're not getting that now. A lot of the times these fights, like this one between Sukuna and Mahroga, even if it had been, perfect, crystal clear, no issues at all, and I saw everything, it's too long. This fight is supposed to be over really, really quickly. It's not a long battle for a reason. And that's partially due to the fact that they have dumbed down Mahroga significantly in this. Let's go over what Mahroga is, so you as the audience can get a better idea. Mahroga is the strongest Shikigami available to the Ten Shadows user. It is the epitome of their power, and it is something so dangerous it can potentially kill a Six Eyes user. Now, the interpretation of that within the story is very interesting because, as some people have noted, you have that flashback which they did in this with Gojo talking to Megami, and as some people have pointed out, and as I will continue to point out, Gojo may have either overestimated his students or underestimated the difficulty curve that they would have had to have achieved. I prefer to think it's the second because I don't think any of the students are weak. He just doesn't have a comprehension of how hard things are for other people that don't have the Six Eyes. And because of that, he kind of underestimated the nature of what Mahroga is, and what it is perfection. Or that's what it's supposed to be. It's near constant adaptation. Whenever anything happens to the Mahroga, it adapts to it. Now, the anime did a terrible job of representing that because they don't show you it adapting. It's unbelievable they missed the key factor of this Shikigami. In the manga, when Sukuna attacks it, it only gets one attack done to it. The wheel will turn, and afterwards, Sukuna tries to throw another attack at it, and it deflects it. That does not happen in this version. Mahroga adapts instantaneously in the manga. I don't think you ever get a clear visual of its adaptation in this. And that's a problem because it's a significant portion of later Jujutsu Kaisen. So the fact that Mahroga's adaptation is almost completely skipped over in this, I can't begin to stress how important that is. I probably have done too much already, but it's a significant aspect. Another portion of this has to deal with how Sukuna's destruction of the city is treated. In this, you could argue that a lot of the damage that occurred here was responsible to Sukuna, but also was caused by just how dangerous Mahroga was in trying to kill him. So, it's not entirely an even, being shoved onto one side, because Mahroga doesn't really do that much collateral damage, if any, in the manga. Here, though, they battle everywhere. They battle in the sky, they battle in buildings, they battle in the square, they battle all over, and that's not the way it's supposed to be. Sukuna is just supposed to show a casual disregard for human life on an extraordinary level by just opening his domain expansion and reducing a whole section of a city to waste. I also feel like this weirdly underestimates his power because so much destruction is thrown around from other things. You don't get a vibe of just how dangerous his cutting technique is here. They kind of do okay with it, showing some of the disintegration, but honestly, the manga, again, speed is a big aspect here. Slowing down this fight was a big problem because in the manga, it's like a page. Just one single image on a page showcases how dangerous his cutting and cleaving attack could be. And then afterwards, it just focuses on Mahroga receiving that damage and then him ending it. So Sukuna's depiction here doesn't come off well either because they try and split the damage. It shouldn't be that way. Yuji's guilt from this will be a significant factor of his character going forward, and I have to stress that enough. If you are anime only, he's not walking away from this. This will be a significant moment for him forever. It's going to be really interesting to see how they try and finish off this season now, because they've altered things, they've changed things, which isn't in itself inherently bad. I've discussed many times on this how their alterations and their additions have contributed so much to Jujutsu Kaisen. But now I think we're seeing the limitations of just because you can add things does not mean you should. So, and while I'm sure there are plenty of people who love this fight, and nothing about it would be wrong to like it. I wouldn't say you'd be wrong for liking it. I will just say that in terms of being a linchpin moment for the series, they let it down badly, quite badly. And they don't really do much else in this, because much like with Yuji's fight versus, Choso, there was next to no real contribution to this. I mean, there were no other storylines going on, nothing like that. Because this was obviously such a significant event, they wanted to focus on it. I just don't think they knew what they wanted to add to it. So why don't you go ahead and tell me in the comments what you thought of this fight? Did you like how Mahroga was portrayed? And if you've read the full manga, do you think they did a good job setting it up for the anime onlys?